All right, guys, welcome back. So we left off talking about Arabic expansion, how they started off in Arabia, kind of sandwiched between these two larger empires, and that made them feel really vulnerable, and so they wanted to expand and create their own Islamic kingdom to create a space that they felt safe worshiping this religion, where they wouldn't be forced to adopt someone else's religion if they were conquered. And so in the process, over the course of just over 100 years, they expand to conquer the Persian Empire. They expand across North Africa into Spain, almost push all the way through into Europe. And they're really only stopped because in the east, they eventually start losing battles to the Byzantines. And then they're stopped over here in Spain by this guy, Charles Martel. And we're going to talk more about him, I think, in a week. So anyway, that's where we left off. And now what we need to focus on is, how did they do this? Like, what was it that made them so successful in expanding across and defeating these very well-established and very powerful empires? So that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and flip to the next page. That's what I'm going to do now. And here we go. So the reason that the Arabs were so successful really comes down to three main topics, three main reasons. They were really successful because of their tactics. They were incredibly successful in part because they were tolerant of other cultures and other religions. And finally, getting people to convert to Islam really helped them to, really helped them to consolidate their empire and get people loyal to them. So we're going to start with tactics. We know Islam arose in Arabia. So we studied this today in class. Arabia, just to remind you, this part right here. Arabia, what do we know about the lifestyles of many Arabs? Pause the video if you need to. Look back at your notes from earlier today to reference this if you need to remember it. But what do we know about the lifestyle of most people from Arabia? If you said they were nomadic, then you're right. So I'm going to start off by commenting on the fact that many Arabs were nomadic. Now, that in and of itself doesn't explain why they were successful. It doesn't tell us anything about tactics. But being nomadic gave the Arabs a number of key advantages in battle. So to help figure this out, think about another nomadic group that we've learned about already, the Xiongnu. So what was it that made the Xiongnu, when they attacked the Han Dynasty, what was it that made them so effective against the Han Dynasty? I'm going to pause for a minute and let you think about that. So what it comes down to, a major advantage that these nomadic Arabs, just like the Xiongnu, major advantage that they had was their cavalry. So being nomadic, they have this strong cavalry. Cavalry is soldiers on horseback. Right. Well, not necessarily horseback, as we'll see with the Arabs, either horseback or on camels. So this gives them a couple advantages. First, speed. right? They're nomadic. They have this strong cavalry, which gives them an advantage in speed. They can attack quickly. And so these other armies don't have a chance to respond or to set up their defenses. So that's one of the big advantages. Another part, though, is that being on horseback or camelback, they can essentially attack from above. Right? Like, I'm going to show you guys a picture. Hold on a sec. Not going to work. There we go. So this is depicting these Arab soldiers on camelback, and I mean, you can imagine if you're a foot soldier trying to attack these guys from down here, like, this guy has the advantage. He just has to stab down at you, whereas you're flailing upwards, which is not nearly as good if you're in battle. So that's part of it. Their battle tactics, their nomadic cavalry makes them really effective. The next part has to do with tolerance. So as we've learned, a lot of empires, a lot of civilizations were intolerant of other cultural groups. And sometimes they would either even persecute people of different religious traditions. So this was true in the Byzantine Empire. This one up here in yellow. The Byzantine Empire was Christian, and they persecuted Jews and other minority groups and discriminated against them, even to the point where they started forcing Jews out of their territory. Muslims, on the other hand, were tolerant of other cultures, tolerant of other religions. So that's the first thing we'll say. Muslims were tolerant of other cultures. This was a tradition they got from the Persians, actually. Now, they were tolerant for a couple reasons. Now, I mean, as we learned today, Islam descended from Judaism and Christianity. It evolved out of those previous religions. So as such, Muhammad taught that Jews and Christians were what he called fellow people of the book. Write that down. He taught that Jews and Christians were people of the book. What he means by that is the book being the Bible, the Torah, these books that Muslims considered to be holy because they were passed down by Abraham, by Jesus, both of whom Muslims see as prophets. They don't think Jesus is the Son of God, but they believe that he's a prophet sent by God. So this idea of this people of the book, they called this the dhimmi. That's how they referred to Muslims, that's how the Muslims referred to Jews and Christians, as the dhimmi. And these dhimmi were able to take, I'm just checking my timer, they could hold high positions, I'm going to abbreviate, they could hold high positions in government. They could hold high positions in society. They could work their way up. So this was something that was really attractive to people because essentially all they had to do in response to this was they had to pay an extra tax called the jizya. And basically, if you paid the jizya, you could keep your cultural traditions, you could keep your religion, and so on. So this was seen not as a punishment, but this was quite lenient at the time. So tactics help them expand because they're more successful in battle, but tolerance helps them expand because, and this is really the important part, I wrote too big, so this is coming down here. Because of this, many minority groups smaller religions, Jews, other things like that, many minority groups welcomed these Arabic armies. They saw them as liberators, freeing them from the people who were controlling them at the time. So those are the first couple reasons. And then lastly, it comes down to conversions. Islam was attractive to people, and a lot of people converted to the religion. Now, there are a couple of reasons why people do this. First, if you convert, you don't have to pay it'd help if I could spell. If you convert, you don't have to pay the jizya, right? That frees you from having to pay that extra tax. So some people converted for economic reasons, but over time it becomes, they pass that religion down to their children. Their children grow up being full believers. A lot of people converted because of this idea of the ummah that we learned about today. This idea of the community of believers. That if you're a Muslim, that's what matters first, and you're part of this larger community that unites everyone. I'm actually going to switch back to this image. So all of these people in blue or purple would be part of this ummah, and so that's attractive to a lot of people, and they convert to one because they want to be a part of that. Regardless of the reason why people convert, the idea is that the more people that convert, the more people who do this, the more support this new caliphate receives. That's my timer telling me to stop. So, that's it, right? They expand, they conquer this huge area because they feel threatened by these areas around them, these empires around them. It takes them 100 years, which for the time is not long at all, spreading the Arabic language, creating this large unified community of Muslims that's known as the Ummah. And they're able to be so successful because of their tactics, because of the tolerance that they offer people, and because a lot of people end up converting, which gains them loyalty. So now that we've finished up, it's really important that you guys process this, put it in your own words, but also that you're able to communicate this in your own, in writing, because that's what you're going to get scored on. So now that you can rewind this, you can go back, review major points, and so on. But to process this, answer this short answer question. But to help you guys, I've given you some directions to help you set it up to make sure that you're earning full points for it. This is what we're going to start with in class tomorrow. So make sure that you answer it fully, answer it well,